As you saw on the film, George Washington had a grist mill that was located on Dogue Run Farm, and that was located near Dogue Run Creek. It was very important to have the water because that helped make the grist mill run. And he would use the water from the creek to help to transport by boat the flour that he had ground at the grist mill, and from there to the port in Alexandria, and then from there to different countries around the world.
All right, another email question from Ms. Budd's fourth grade class, Dillard Street Elementary School, Winter Garden, Florida. They asked, did George Washington's mill ever break down?
Well, you know, the grist mill was a piece of machinery, and all machinery breaks down at some point. So George Washington had a big job in making sure that the grist mill ran properly. You know, the biggest part of the grist mill was the mill race, and that was the canal that ran from the water itself into the grist mill, making sure that the water ran smoothly. Now, someone like Slammin' Joe, he would have been responsible for digging ditches to make sure that the water ran smoothly. Weather was always a problem as well. Sometimes if the weather was too cold, the water would freeze and the water wouldn't flow into the mill. And then there were other times when the weather was too hot and there wasn't enough rain. And then that would also present a problem because there wasn't enough water to run the mill.
All right, Mrs. Downer's fifth grade class at Fremont Elementary in La Cañada, California wants to know, how much flour did George Washington's mill produce each year?
Well, as we talked about before, George Washington was a wonderful record keeper. So, for example, in 1797, we know that George Washington's grist mill ground about 5,000 bushels of wheat. So if they think about that, that's about 275,000 bushels altogether. Now, the mill also ground about 3,200 bushels of corn. That was about 178,000 pounds of corn. So that's a lot of corn.
That's a lot of corn. We have another question from our studio audience. Yes.
Hi, my name is Shimia, and my question is, what was it like working for General Washington?
Well, now, man, that's a tough question now. You see, it ain't easy. You see, any part about slavery, ain't nothing easy about that. And the general, well, he's a hard worker. And he got a lot of land, and he's trying to make some money with his land. So things got to be done, whether you're injured, you're sick, or whatnot. It's a lot of work. You ain't got no say-so. You got to get up, work all day. Ain't nothing but work, 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 work. Now, the general's a hard worker, and I respect that about him. And I can't blame him for it. But it's difficult at times, man. It's very hard. Yes, it is.
All right. Do we have another question from the audience? Yes.
Hi, my name is Josephine. My question is, did you ever work at the mill?
Well, now, ma'am, you see, I did some ditching down at the mill. You see, the ditching helped with the mill race. We had to build that. Now, you see, that was pretty much the most work I did at the mill. But I met Ben the Miller when I was down there. You see, Ben, he's a slave here. And you see, he's in charge of the mill. Ain't too many slaves in charge of anything, but he in charge of that mill. Yes, ma'am. You see, most of my work take place up here on the Mansion House farm, hunting, fishing, you know, like that. But the only time I went to the mill was for ditching.
All right. Well, we have a final email question now from Mrs. Morales' third grade class at the Buckley School in New York, New York. Why do you think George Washington liked farming? Charlene.
Well, that's a very good question to wrap up with. I don't know if any of you know this, but 200 years ago, 90% of all Americans were farmers. So that meant that if you lived during that time, you probably would have been a farmer too. Now, George Washington, he loved to farm. He loved to experiment with new ideas, but he was also our nation's greatest leader. And he had a vision for America. He wanted America to be a storehouse and a granary for the world. He also wanted farming to be the way for America to become strong economically, selling our agricultural products to different countries around the world. So not only did he love to experiment, and not only did he love farming, but he also felt that America would be strong if we relied on farming.
All right. Well, if that's all the time we have for today, thank you, Charlene. Thank you, Tom. Now, thanks to all of the students, both here in the audience and around the country, who asked such interesting questions. From all of us here, thank you. Bye-bye.